traditional Phinisi and modern Phinisi. In traditional Phinisi, I will explain about who's the maker, when was it first made, where was the first Phinisi ship made, and the last is Phinisi ship function. In Phinisi modern, I will explain about current function. I will explain about the characteristic of modern Phinisi. And then Phinisi boat type. In Phinisi boat type, I will explain about traditional Phinisi and modern Phinisi, its shape and characteristic. And Phinisi specialty, I will explain about Phinisi shipbuilding principle and Phinisi shipbuilding technique. Phinisi boat history. The first is traditional Phinisi. The history of the Phinisi ship begins with its construction in the 14th century by a crown prince named Legenda, who came from the Blue Kingdom. At the time, the first Phinisi boat was made using raw material from a tree known as the Wellenrun tree or the tree of the gods. On Thursday, 7 December 2017, the Indonesian Phinisi ship became a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage, which had been designated in Paris, France. According to the mythology of the Tanah people in South Sulawesi, the beginning of making Phinisi ship was when their ancestors made a large boat to sail the ocean. The boat was to be used to carry merchandise and also to catch fish. And then modern Phinisi. In the era of globalization, the Phinisi as a freighter has changed its function into a luxury commercial cruise ship or expedition financed by local and foreign investors with luxurious interiors and equipped with diving equipment, water games for marine tourism, and a crew that is trained and strengthened with modern technique. One of the newest examples of luxury yacht is the Silona sailing under the flag. Like many other types of traditional boats, the Phinisi have been equipped with motors, mostly since the 1970. This has changed the appearance of the ship. Comparable to modern draws, the masts have been shortened or removed when the deck cranes is tapered completely, with structures on deck, usually aft, have been enlarged for crew and passengers. By the early 1000s, commercial sailing fleet in the world at the time, had contacted all corners of Indian Ocean and become the backbone of people commerce. The Phinisi was modified into a dive-carrying vessel by foreign investor for tourist purpose. One example is that the boat was used as a pit stop for the amazing range. And then Phinisi boat type. Phinisi boats are usually divided into two types. The first is namely Legenda Phinisi, and the second is Polari Phinisi. Legenda Phinisi tend to be more modern than Polari Phinisi. The hallmark of the Phinisi Legenda or Lambo or modern lies in its slightly different shape and equipped with a diesel motor or PLM. You can look in my behind. In terms of size, the Legenda Phinisi also tends to be larger than the other Phinisi, so that more loads and goods can be transported. The hallmark of the Phinisi Polari or traditional Phinisi lies in the carved shapes of the keel, and it is still used as a secondary screen as a driving force for the Phinisi movement. You can see in my behind, Phinisi Polari, known as the initial form of Phinisi, measuring 10 to 15 meters with a maximum carrying capacity of 30 tons. Phinisi Polari still released on sails in the middle of the sea based on the strength of the wind, and is known as the traditional Phinisi. The specialty of the Phinisi ship. The philosophical ritual in making the Phinisi ship is like the process making children. You know children? The process begins with the union of two large pieces of wood as the keel or the main body of the ship, which is united with the husband and wife. The only development in the manufacture of ship hulls and other ship parts, so no blueprints. The prayer procession takes place at every stage, including from the beginning with the Barganzi ceremony and cannery before starting the shipbuilding process. Then, before the process of making the hull, the community will perform a prayer ceremony and feast again, and the traditional elders will lead the procession. When it is launched into the sea, it is like the process of giving birth to baby. At the launch of the ship into the sea, Paritalapi will lead and pray that everything goes smoothly and benefically and safely, says the ocean. Then in the process of opening the ship to the sea, which is also traditional, this unique ritual will influence many people, even out to the above hundreds of people who will finish the finished ships that has received the sea manually using mines. With the involvement of many people and various rituals, it is not surprising that the cost of making this traditional ship also requires a lot of money. Phinisi shipbuilding technically. The making of one of the proud ships of ships, one has to look for the good days, which is to look for wood on the 5 and 7 days of the current month. The number 5 in the Bugis language symbols Naparalimai Dalena, which means sustenance is in hand. While the number 7 symbols the purpose of Dalena, which means always getting sustenance. Due to the fact that the forest is no longer as the same as it was in the past. Wood is no longer obtained from the forest, but must be purchased from a wood warehouse. In fact, not infrequently also import from other islands outside Sulawesi. Good wood is wood that is large and is quite old. After finding good wood, the next step is to cut the wood. After the wood is cut, it is not immediately cut into large blocks for the keel or boards for the hull. However, before that, the wood must first be dried for some time so that it is easier to cut. After drying, the wood is cut into pieces as needed. Then the wood or raw material are assembled into a boat. How to assemble it is to install the keel and the board. Once installed, then caulk it. The Phinisi ship is a special ship. This ship is made by expert hands without using the help of modern equipment. All the parts of the ships are made of wood, are assembled without using nails. Although made of wood, this ship is able to withstand the brunt of the waves and storms on the